2, 1. Hi, guys. My name is James. I'm with Kyle and Justin. Welcome back to the number one car salesman podcast of the world, the Lot Walkers podcast. Excited to be able to educate and inform and entertain you guys today. A beautiful Tuesday afternoon. So, obviously, with us being part of a Ford store, and the purpose of doing this is to entertain, but also inform and educate. One of the things that I wanted to bring up right off the bat was some of the incentives that we have going on for Ford and Volvo. Kyle's going to go over primarily most of that. I think he does a really great well of explaining all of that. And then we'll be able to hop right in. So,
what's up, everybody? All right. So, kind of one of the big things to go over that I feel like is a misconception from the consumer side is that everybody pays the same prices for vehicles everywhere, right? And that is not the case. Different markets dictate kind of what things buy or sell or go for. So in the case of what we're going to be talking about today between Justin, James, and myself, like the big thing is to keep in mind that we're based out of the Pittsburgh region. So we encompass, we live in Erie, so we're on the western side of Pennsylvania. We're in the middle of a tri-state area between, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland. So a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about and reference to is tied to the market in which we work. How that looks on the consumer side is a little bit different. So let's say for whatever reason you're traveling, you're out of state, you go somewhere else and your car breaks down, you need to buy a car. The good news for you is if you are in our region, your rebates will follow you based off your zip code that you give the dealership with your address, right? So it's also not conducive to drive to another state because you think you're going to get their rebates, because that's also not the case. So a prime example that I've personally seen with that is like I've sold somebody a car that lived in Washington, D.C. He had very different rebates than we did up here, but it's because Ford markets in that area differently, right? So I think, the big thing for me is like I could go down through this line by line through every single rebate, but kind of important thing to remember is there's multiple ways to look at incentives, right? And so one of the big things that Ford's doing right now with the summer sales event is 0% APR for 48 months, which if you can afford a short-term loan and the payment, that is huge.
Or if you're thinking about paying cash. If you're thinking about paying cash, just get the 0 for 48.
Right. Right. And so to kind of dive into that a little bit further, I'm not a financial advisor. I also don't work in finance, so take that with a grain of salt. But to Justin's point, like if you're somebody that's thinking about paying in cash, instead of paying cash and deducting all that from your bank account, you could take a payment and not pay any interest on it, and then take that money and make it work for you elsewhere. So whether that be in CDs or in savings accounts or in your brokerage, right? Whatever. Yeah, or pay it whenever you want, right? As long as you're making your payments, so it doesn't affect your credit score. But the big thing there is like obviously you could take that money and put it to work for you in other capacities, which I think is huge and not something that many people really understand. But then like the other big thing is you're always going to see bigger rebates on leftovers, right? So 2024 Expeditions, we do really well with them at this store. So like we don't have any left, I don't think. But so like if you can find a leftover and you don't care about driving something that's a model year old and it's a higher ticket vehicle, I mean, you could be looking at, $7,000 off, which that's a lot of money, at least to me. So interested to see what you guys have to add. Who wants to stick next?
I think a big thing right now is the tax savings on electric vehicles ending September 30th. So if you're in the market for an electric vehicle right now is definitely a good time to get into that, because you're going to miss out, I believe, on it used to be 7,500, but I think on 25 Mach-E's, it's about 6,750 off of the sticker price. And then on a 24 Mach-E, you can get up to $9,000 off. So if you're thinking about doing it, now is definitely the time for that, because who knows what's going to happen after September 30th when they get rid of that tax credit. So definitely an important thing. You got anything to add there, Jim?
Well, I'm extremely happy that we started bringing up EVs into the conversation. To let the audience know, Kyle is our electric vehicle specialist. And I did actually sort of want to start talking about EVs a little bit because I seem to actually run into a lot of scenarios, a lot of people being questionable about hopping into the EV market. And I don't know if it's because of it's an Erie thing. Obviously, I haven't sold in any other market. And so my experience towards why somebody would get an EV, I'm sure really they're all the same in terms of like, well, I do a lot of city driving and all this and that, but I feel like location does have a lot to do with it too. I feel like Erie, I feel like I run into a lot of situations where people are worried about the winters and having an EV. I'm sort of jumping off topic, like we're going from incentives to EVs, but hey,
okay.
yeah. So I mean, I guess this is really more for a question for you, Kyle. What are some of the biggest misconceptions that customers have about EVs, and how do you address them as our electronic vehicle specialist?
Yeah, so the EV thing is kind of funny for me, and it's an ironic thing in a sense because James and Justin have both kind of heard this story before, so I'll point it more at you guys. But the big thing is like you kind of have to take a dive into my background a little bit. So I'm very mechanically inclined, can pretty much tear anything apart, and the big thing is like when I first started working here, I was the type of person that I said if it doesn't have a 5.0 in it, I wouldn't buy it, right? Like there's no replacement for displacement. A lot of that old, yeah, naturally aspirated, right? Like we get it all the time here at the Ford store, especially, if it's not something people are familiar with. But it's funny how, hindsight's 2020 and you learn things as you kind of grow. And the big thing for me is what it came down to is like I just didn't have the knowledge about them, right? Like it's almost in a sense like a hesitation or a fear thing, right? And the big thing is like I'm a huge fan of motorsport, like watch Formula One religiously, right? And if you look at Formula One, what are they using as power plants, right? At least right now in 2025, they're using twin turbo V8 with a hybrid battery system attached to it, right? So there is a form of electrification in the top pinnacle of motorsport, right? So clearly there's something to it, something to be desired. And the big thing with EVs is like a lot of the fears that people have towards them can be easily dismantled, right? The other thing, and this is just like a pride thing for me, at least in the Ford world, like I was really upset that they put a Mustang emblem on the front of it, right? A lot of people had a problem with that, and I came, yeah, I still do, yeah, and all right, but it's like, I saw this car and it looks like an Escape, but it's got Mustang emblems on it and it's an EV. Like, what's up with that, right? But a lot of that came from the fact that I came from a Mustang family. My dad has two of them, right? But the big thing is like I felt like that until I drive to GT with a performance upgrade, right? It's got Magna Ride. It has one pedal drive with Brembos on it, right? Like thing stops on a dime, accelerates so fast it'll turn your stomach upside down. And that experience made me realize like, okay, this is why they put a Mustang emblem on it, because you can drive this thing like a race car. But then on the flip side, like I can see where people get their concern, right? And a lot of it is tied to charging times. But the thing is like, if you treat it like your phone, when you plug your phone in every night, you're not going to run into that issue unless you're taking it on like a really, really long road trip, right? Probably one of the other big things that I see is like people bring it up a lot is service, right? Like, oh, what happens when the battery goes bad? That's where I'm really happy with what Ford has done with their product versus other brands, right? Because if a battery goes bad in another brand, it might be more conducive for you to just go buy a new one, right? Whereas in Ford, the engineers actually used multi-cell batteries so that that one cell can be replaced rather than the whole battery. And then if you take that into account with the fact that it has an 8-year, 100,000 miles on everything related to the drivetrain, like it's the electric components, yeah, the EV part of it, like it's pretty hard to pass up, especially considering the fact that, like, once again, speaking to where we live, where our current energy rates are, from 0% battery, which you should never let an EV get to 0%. Fun fact, 15%, I would say you need to go plug it in somewhere. But let's say hypothetically, if it was stone dead and you charged it to full at your house, it's only going to cost you $10, right? Like, you can't get 300 miles of gas range for $10, right? And then you have no emissions inspection, because we live in a state and an area where you need your normal state inspection and an emissions inspection, but you don't need an emissions inspection on an EV. If you're using the one pedal drive right, you might not even need brake pads. You know what I mean? So now it's like, okay, I have a car that all I have to replace on is the tires. There's no engine oil, right? So there's a lot of benefits to it too. And the crazy part, and I think the part that gets me, is like, we live in a society now where, you know, pretty much anybody in adulthood has a car. Like, carpooling isn't as common, right? And so it's not like you have to, oh my God, everybody phase into EVs right now, right? Like, one person could have an ICE motor, like an internal combustion engine, and the other person could have an EV. And then if you're really that worried about the charge times on long road trips, take the other car, right? Because, like, why would you not want something that's super fun to drive, to zip around town in, that costs you way less money, right? And that's where, you know, I feel like a lot of that comes down to, like, information, right? Like, most people just don't know that information and don't realize how well EVs have now been engineered and set up to be more conducive to the consumer, right? Like, they wouldn't be trying to sell it to the public if it wasn't ready, right? Think of it like hair products, right? Like, they test them before they roll them out. It's the same idea, you know? So I think that's where it comes down to. And it's funny because I tell my customers all the time, like, knowledge is power, right? And, like, I know you guys know this, and I've probably told your customers, like, people say all the time, like, oh, I want to leave and do, like, more research, right? It's like, well, I have all the information. All you have to do is ask questions, you know? And it's funny, but the sad part is, with, like, the government pulling back on EVs, I don't think they're going anywhere. I just think it's going to take even longer now for people to get accustomed to them, right? Because it's just adding back in that element of, like, oh, well, if the government's skeptical about them, I'm going to be skeptical about them too, right? And just kind of follow suit. But I have plenty of customers, and I've met plenty of people that have owned Mach-E's for years. I mean, we had one that came in with 30,000 miles and on the used side, and there was nothing wrong with the car.
Wait, you're talking about the one that I almost bought? That had
Yeah.
15,000.
Oh, it had 15,000 miles on it. Okay.
30. I was very skeptical about EVs, and I still almost bought them.
There, I talked about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm a big Mustang guy. I've had a Mustang before I started selling Fords, and I've been thinking about upgrading past few years. Ran into, I think it was a 2022, just pretty base model. Well, no, it was a premium.
It was premium.
Mustang Mach-E, Star White. And it came in. I mean, I thought it was beautiful. I mean, like I said, from the beginning, I wasn't really too excited about Mach-E's becoming a thing, obviously, because of the whole Mustang thing.
Right.
And I think if they wanted to do better, like, marketing it, they should have called it something else. But still, I looked at it as, like, Kyle really almost sold me on it, to be honest. Like, because you start talking to him about anything and he'll start almost convincing you to do it. He won't even convince you. He'll make it make sense to do it. You know, it's like he'll help you rationalize it in your head. And, but yeah, I was very skeptical about buying an EV, but I recently did move out to the city here. And so, like, I live 5 minutes away from work, so I could use the charger here and it would be pretty convenient. And I almost did it, but I don't know. Obviously, just financial decisions is what got in the way of that. So,
what James is leaving out here is he has a hard time deciding on anything.
Yeah, I'm very indecisive because I know that I know you got to sacrifice what you want now for what you want later. And so every single time I'm about to even consider buying something, that's the only thing that's going through my head. But it's like, I want it now, you know?
I got a point too. Yeah. In terms of skepticism with EVs, the best way I find to approach that with customers is lease it. You know,
Yeah.
right? You're only committing for 3 years or shorter or longer, however you want to do it, and your payment's going to be low on an EV. So not only you're gonna have a look. I was talking to Kyle earlier. I'm about to lease a EV to a customer for less money than I'm paying for a $30,000 Maverick, which is crazy because it's a $58,000 car.
Yeah.
You know, and he's not paying gas, and he's gonna gap me 10 times out of 10 on the highway. Right. You know, so that's the thing too. Is and I've also taken a couple road trips, or I've taken one road trip with the EV, the Dodge Charger. And I gotta say, charge times on some of the like level 3, the higher end chargers, I was there for 45 minutes and it gave me enough juice to get home, and it really wasn't that bad of an experience. Just sat in the AC. It was hot out. You know, watched some YouTube videos and got on the road again. So,
the other big thing too, and this is just kind of like more an opinion piece. But I think it's like helpful if you're still kind of like really skeptical or on the fence. And we see it a lot with like the new Fords coming out, especially in the F series, like the F-150s, the half tons in particular. It's been a thing for a really long time in the Ford world, as well as many other automotive brands. But if you're skeptical about an EV, but you are conscious about, you know, what you're getting for gas mileage, and you want to, you know, have a lower carbon footprint, the big thing is like hybrids. Like, try hybrid, right? You don't want to jump fully to an EV. They make power boost trucks now, which are absolutely sick. And you could take a look at our employee parking and figure out how cool the power boost F-150s are, because half the sales guys here drive them. Like, and you have a full size truck that's making 430 horsepower. It's V6, it's twin turbo. The turbos are a little bit smaller than on your normal 3.5 EcoBoost. Now you have a hybrid battery to give you instant torque off the line, right? A little bit more pick me up. They're fast. They can still tow. They can do everything that a normal truck would do, with the added benefit of better gas mileage, right? Yeah. And then if you trickle that down the line, like even the Mavericks, right? Like, now Ford in 2025 just released a new Maverick that has a hybrid all-wheel drive, right? And that is big, because in our climate, like last year, we had a snowstorm where we got 4 feet of snow in 2 days, right? Like, all-wheel drive becomes much more important, but then that person that wants to get 40 miles to the gallon, like, you still can.
Keep in mind too, I got my Maverick the year before they released the hybrid all-wheel drive, so I got stuck with a gas all-wheel drive. I'm not too mad about it, but you know, we got to keep it going at least. You know, got to get it paid off first before I trade it in.
Yeah. I think another kind of thing for me too is like, I get a lot of people skeptical about the hybrids. There's a couple good things that I've seen kind of happen in the hybrid world. One is the introduction of the eCVT, right? So the electronic continuously variable transmission, where you can see a transmission that's not one speed or not belt driven. It still has gears, but it's electronically flipping back and forth from the gas motor and the electric motor. Because like, that was my personal gripe with like hybrid stuff, was I didn't really care for the CVT transmission. But even still, like, the good part in my brain is like, it's been around for a really long time. Like, there was escapes all the way back in like 2012 with hybrids in them, right? And it's like, they're still making them today. So clearly there's something good there. Otherwise, like, they wouldn't have continued production. And there's clearly a market for it, right? So if people are buying these vehicles enough that a manufacturer is continuing to produce them, there's probably a reason for that, right? And it's just like the Edge, right? Like, I liked the Edge, especially like the Edge ST, the tuner guy in me, right? But like, why discontinue that car, right? And there's a market for it. People were buying it, but chances are it was probably to make room for something else. And that I don't know. We'll keep you updated if we hear any leaks, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, me too. But it's just interesting because obviously there's a lot of people in a lot of different positions within Ford as a company that are making decisions that, as sales guys, we're not always the most enlightened to. But it's always pretty cool to watch. But do we have any other EV questions?
I don't think that we do. I feel like I do have some important news, which is like big. I don't know if you guys have heard about it. I don't know why we haven't talked about it, but I had somebody who had a brother that works with the manufacturer of Ford, and I heard news that Ford is actually going to discontinue the Escape. Yeah.
I've heard rumors of that too.
Yeah.
Because the Bronco Sport really does.
Oh,
It's been outdoing the Escape like pretty bad, at least in our market. I imagine
Yeah.
other markets it might be different, to where, people might be looking more into the hybrid Escapes and
Mhm.
stuff of that sort. But Bronco Sport's just crushing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think I sell a decent amount of them, and so I mean, it's hard for me to say. I think it's almost like a ancient Ford product. That's how it feels. It feels like it was from the beginning.
Well, the F-150 was been there, Expedition, Explorer.
Yeah.
They've all been there.
It's like losing the main superheroes in Avengers,
Right. Well, and so the Escapes had a really long run, right? So I wouldn't be overly surprised. The other thing that might be interesting to you guys and the people at home to look up, like all our friends in the EU already know what I'm going to say, but what I could see happening is because like Mach-E's similar size as the Escape, right? You guys already allotted to the fact that the Bronco Sport's literally built off the same platform. So the space is almost identical. What I could see is there is a car in Europe called the Ford Puma that they make the Ford Puma, which is like a more compact crossover type vehicle. And they also make like a Puma ST from what I've heard, if I remember correctly. So like, I wouldn't be surprised because I know that vehicle is doing very, very well in Europe. I wouldn't be surprised if we see it come over here, especially since now the only car Ford makes is the Mustang, right? It wouldn't blow my mind if we see just a slightly smaller crossover that you get the utility that you'd have with an Escape, right? Yeah. Because that's why people buy them, the space in the interior, but the gas mileage and the zippiness of something closer to a car, right? Because I feel like I'm speaking from my own personal experience, but that's like a big pain point I run into is like, we don't have anything small and we don't really have anything like cheap.
Yeah,
but
grandma's car,
right?
Yeah, because there definitely is a market for that small, eco sport type car, and Ford right now just doesn't really have it. The Escape obviously is the closest thing.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I try to show some old ladies some Bronco Sports sometimes, and they're always like, it's too big, but it's the same size. But I get where like the illusion of the bigness of the Bronco Sport comes from compared to the Escape. But yeah, the Eco Sport, the Ford needs something like that. Like, it's like,
perfect. Well, because I feel like a lot of brands definitely still are taking advantage of that market. I do want to go a little bit more personal, though. I do have a question, which for all of us, going into our sales experience, what's one of the, or you can name multiple if you have them, but what's the most memorable deal that you've closed here at Champion, and what made it special too, right? So, all right. So you want to go first? I feel like you had something that instantly popped in.
Yeah, instantly. So I have a few, obviously, now that I've been selling for a year. I kind of want to like just take a step back and like, if you are selling cars or interested in selling cars, the big thing is like, you have to kind of open yourself up, right? Because if you're not like mindful of like your surroundings and what's going on around you and what people are looking for, like these opportunities usually won't present themselves. Whereas like if you're closed off and like super like, not open to things, you can kind of miss some of the cues to build a deal like this. But probably one of my favorites, and these guys know it because they were here for it, but I had a gentleman come in with his son, and the son had just graduated from college, and had 2 trades, both paid off, both titled, both pretty late model, really nice. Traded them both in. He bought a brand new Rocky Ridge and a brand new Raptor on the same day in cash. That was pretty wild. $160,000 in trucks in the same day. Just cool. And the kind of though, like, even though like the sales experience was a fun part of it, like being able to capture a deal like that as a sales guy, the funny thing is, like, I still talk to this guy, right? Like, he is, like, I would consider him a friend, right? And that's like the beauty of it, is like, the car sales is a byproduct, right? Like, you should be out here forging relationships with people you're selling vehicles to. And that was like the prime example of, like, when I went into work that day, I didn't think I was selling $160,000 worth of vehicles, right? But it happened, and now I have somebody that, like, I talk to him every now and again, just check up on him. But, like, he reaches out, shows me what's going on with his truck, and super, super happy customers. But definitely one of my most fun. But I think you have a better story to top it that just happened. So
I have a few that come to mind when that question pops up. Like, I have, I'll start out with the Big Bang, I'll call it. Yeah. So this is what, 2 weeks ago now? Yeah.
This month, right?
Yeah. It was at the beginning of this month. So, it was towards the end of the second week. Yeah, it was towards the end of the second week, and I didn't have any cars out. Sort of started getting a little bit stressed. Everybody's gotten 2, 3. So I think you even had 4 out. And there's a customer that called in and got referred to me. I sold their friend a Ford Explorer Platinum last month, and they got referred to me, and they were buying. They originally told me they were buying 3 cars, and then when they came in, they decided that they were going to buy 4 cars. And they almost bought 5 cars because they almost bought a dump truck too.
It started at 2.
Yeah, it started at 2.
I got the initial phone call.
Yeah.
2. And right off the bat, that's odd. Like, just coming in being like, I'm going to buy 2 cars. So I was like, is there anybody you work with? And then luckily, bang.
Yeah.
Got it. And then 4.
4. Yeah.
And then
so
almost a dump truck.
Yeah. So it was a total of, I think, like $260,000 worth of transaction. So they bought a F-250 Lariat white, and then they bought a Explorer ST, an Explorer ST line, and then a used Active Escape CPO. Which, if you don't know about that, that's our certified program, or certified pre-owned program. And so, that was definitely memorable. That happened all in one day. It was crazy too, because I was actually 10 minutes, I was about to leave. In 10 minutes, I was sitting out front. 10 minutes, my dad was on his way. We were going to go meet with an attorney. And a lady walks in. She asked for James. I was like, I don't recognize you. And it was that girl. And so we were able to get it all done. And it was almost like I didn't really have to do too much. I mean, I was running around like crazy, don't get me wrong. But I basically just asked her when she got there, like, everybody know what they want? And they were all like, yeah. And so it was, I let everybody test drive it, make sure that they understood it and enjoyed it before they bought it. Yeah. But they ended up winning the lottery, which was amazing. Because, it sort of it blew my mind, because the idea that I could sell 4 cars to a person that won the lottery. I have a higher chance of doing that than actually winning the lottery. So it's like, it blew my mind. I have another one too. This one was just memorable just because of, obviously, I didn't make much off it, and it was more about the experience that I was able to give to the customer. And so I remember I was really just in the right place at the right time. I was sitting in Tim's office. I think I was like trying to work out a deal with him or something. And I was in Tim's office. He got a phone call transferred to him. And it was this guy who unfortunately had a stroke, and it was hard to understand him. And so our receptionist didn't know who to send him to, because she didn't really understand him. Thought he said finance. Started talking to Tim. Tim started asking him questions, could understand him a little bit. And he basically just told him that he will have James reach out, because I was right there. And so I reached out to him. And this was like January, maybe late December, but it was not pretty outside. Yeah. And it wasn't pretty outside. And so I called him. And I talked to him on the phone for about 20, 30 minutes, and I got an understanding of what he was trying to do. And I asked him when he could be there, and he said, I'm not driving in this. And I said, well, I looked at the weather, and I was like, all right, well, this isn't going to clear up.
Of the big storm.
Yeah. This it wasn't going to clear up.
How many inches? Because not everybody's from Erie. How many inches was that snowstorm? You think? I don't remember. Or feet?
I think it was like 57. It was over 4 feet.
Yeah, over 4 feet.
It
Yeah.
was over. It was like up to my.
Yeah, in
Like,
2
it-
days.
Yeah, we couldn't even use our driveway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I offered to him was like, I offered to come and pick him up, and I'll pick him up in the car that he wants to look at, and we can come back and we can basically just work out all the details and figure out if he actually wants to do it.
All right.
And so I went and picked him up. He lived by the mall. Went and picked him up, brought him here, sold him the car, and then it was still too bad outside for them to drive it back. And so it was closing time around this time. I drove them back in the car they just bought. Yeah, Justin followed me back because he had to take me home. Yeah. And so honestly, I mean, I think just being able to take care of them in that kind of way and making it that easy, you know, especially yeah. And I you know, I always tell my customer too, and this is honestly, you can call it a word track, but it comes from the heart. Right. Is like, as long as you're smiling while you're driving, that's all that matters to me.
There we go.
And so yeah, that was definitely one of my special ones.
The first one that comes to my mind is definitely the F-250 King Ranch deal I got.
Yeah.
Just because of the story that kind of goes behind that too is the grandma was buying it as a gift for the grandson because he took over the family farm. Yeah. So it's kind of like I don't know. I just thought that was a pretty cool thing. The other one I had was he was a tough customer, an older gentleman, and he was looking for a $10,000 truck the first day I met him. And then every time he came back, the price went up, you know, because he couldn't find a nice enough truck for that price. Right. And eventually I got him on a good, decent, like running truck that's actually going to last him for a while until he probably retires his business. And ended up selling him that truck. And he worked at a couple other dealerships with some ex-employees too, which is always a W, you know. And then what ended up happening is I started talking to his son, who is a manager at a big dealership down in South Carolina. And the manager from down there just showered me with compliments the whole time, saying like how I handled it better than every other place he went to. And the deciding factor of the deal was, who do you think you can call after you buy the truck if you have a problem? And the answer was me. So that's where the deal ended up going. So that was a pretty good feeling as well, you know. A little bit of an ego stroke maybe, but you know, it's good, you know.
Yeah, one more thing to add.
I almost do too.
Yeah. Well, I'll add this, and then James can add whatever he likes, but then we should probably close it out just so this one doesn't take an hour to upload. But to any of the sales guys out there or anybody that's watching this for the sake of picking up sales skills, James just did a really good job about talking about like driving, you know, to pick somebody up in a snowstorm, right? Like obviously we live in Erie, so that kind of opportunity opens itself up in the winter here, and you might not live in a climate that is conducive to that. But right around, I think like 3 months after I started selling cars, I had a deal that took me probably a month to put together. A set of older folks that still check up on me, my daughter, my family time to time, right? And I closed this deal on their kitchen table in their house, right? Like I was going over to their house once a week for pretty much an entire month to close a deal. So yeah, I think that's a great kind of message to share with anybody that's like in sales, aspiring to be in sales. Like sometimes it takes the extra mile, and sometimes you have to be okay with doing that because like I've said it before, I'll say it again, and probably until people are sick of it, but like this business is about people and putting people in cars, right? And if we can't put people in cars, what are we doing here, right? So I think that's like an important thing to remember if you are in the car business, or if you're even trying to venture into anything in sales, because like whatever you're selling, you want to positively affect the person's life that you're selling it to. That is kind of, to me, the meat and potatoes of a good sales pitch. But that's just my opinion. Yeah. But I'll let you close it out.
All Yeah, I agree. You're really you're doing a service here. You know, you are here to serve in a way, and not just serve in a world, or not in a way of just like giving them a fun experience, but being able to actually solve their issues. Right. I mean, that's a lot of what this is. Right. You have to figure out what they're trying to do. Like they came here today with a whole bunch of problems. Am I right? Yes, of course I am. Right. You're here to fix the problem. Let me help you fix that. And at the end of the day, you do sometimes have to go out of the line of what is normal to get stuff done. And I mean, with this being my first year, I've sort of almost, I think this isn't going to leave me, but mentally, I've sort of always just had the idea, like, just whatever it takes to get it done, you know? So I think it's a really good mindset to have. In terms of going back to like the story of like another memorable sale. Obviously, my first one, my very first one. All right, this one's a pretty simple story. I'm not gonna drag it, but my dad, ever since I started working here, I grew up in a Ford family. All right, if I wasn't selling Fords, I wouldn't be my father's son. Yeah, but we won't talk about that. And so ever since I started working here, even in service, my dad would constantly just talk about Broncos and consider buying one and all this and that. But he's always bought in old cars with really low mileage for cheap. And we had a 1997 Mercury Cougar, 15,000 miles on it for $7,000. For $7,000. Kyle actually ended up selling it, but my dad was the first one to ever come in on it. But he didn't end up buying it. He didn't even look at it, because when he came in, and I told our managers, he's not buying a car unless I'm selling it to him. And at this time, I wasn't even in sales yet. And so it sort of forced them to, all right, let go of the leash. And when he came in, I didn't really have an idea of much of what I was doing. I was winging it, but it was also my dad too. So it was like, how do I do this while still being able to learn about the process and not put any pressure on him? And we didn't even end up looking at the Cougar, because I told him, I know you want to drive a Bronco. It's all you've been talking to me about since I've started here. So we went on a test drive in a Bronco, like a base model one too. Came back, picked one of the most expensive, dope, coolest ones that we've had. And he bought it that day. He absolutely loves it. It's a beauty. Bronco Wild Track 2023 white 2-door. Doesn't get much better than that. But that just having that sort of core memory as the start of my experience here is something that I'll always remember for sure. So, yeah.
I got one last thing here, and I'm sure you guys probably relate to this more than I even do, because you have a little bit more time in the straddle than I do, is just helping anybody out in a tough situation, like if they're, whether it's a financial situation or a credit situation where they really need a vehicle, and you get them approved and get it to go through. That's
or
probably
even, like, relationship like situations. Like I've had situations with people getting divorced and they need to get a new car.
Like that to me is one of the best feelings, is getting wheels under people and just getting them where they need to go, especially, people with families, all that stuff. So
All right, I lied. I'm going to close it out.
all right, close her out. And then
All right. So, one last piece of advice from the lot walkers, Kyle specifically today. So, I love James' story. If you're a new sales guy, don't be afraid to sell to friends or family. But on a motivational note, I'm from 3.5 hours from here. Don't have really, a lot of family in the area, or friends for the most part, because I grew up pretty far away from here, and I'm doing just fine in my sales career. So don't let that stop you. If you are new to an area, don't be afraid to jump into sales, because you can make it work. But thanks for watching, guys. If you like what you saw, want to see some more, give us a like, give us a share, give us a follow, subscribe. We want to keep doing this, so every little bit of support helps, and we'll see you guys in the next one.